Walking around, feeling free, thinking about what's happened to me from July up till now. Don't know where, don't know how.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Bookmas video. And in this video, I'm very excited because I'm going to be doing my end of year book unhaul. Now, if you have been on my channel since the very beginning of 2024, one of my goals was to reduce the quantity of unread books on my bookshelf down to 25% or less. So I wanted to have at least a quarter or less of my bookshelf as unread. And this is going to help me potentially achieve that. I don't think I'm going to for the year, but this is going to help out a little bit. So what I'm going to be doing is unhauling books that I either have read, that I have no intention of ever rereading, or I don't have any kind of feelings or attachment to these books, and I would like to pass them on to someone else to potentially love and keep on their bookshelf. Or they're going to be books that I just don't either see myself ever reading, or I started to read and just could not make it through. So I've already pulled all of the books off of my bookshelf, and I have 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17 books. I think there probably could have been more pulled, but some of the books that are still on my bookshelf that I probably could have pulled, I'm leaving them purely for the hope that I will read them in 2025. So we're going to go ahead and just pull at random. These are in no particular order, and talking about the books that I am unhauling and why I'm unhauling them. So the first book that we have is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I did read this. I want to say I probably gave this maybe a 3.5 to a 4 star. The problem is with this book is that I really enjoyed the MMC in this book, but I felt nothing for the FMC. Every time the FMC was on the page or had her point of view, I just got bored and I was waiting for the MMC to show up instead. So because of that, I know I'm not going to pick out this book again to do a reread. And I don't ever see me wanting to reference this book in any future videos or reading vlogs. So we're just going to pass this on. It was a decent read, but I think if I would have liked the FMC more, I probably would have enjoyed the book and potentially kept it on my bookshelf. So book 1 being unhauled. The next book is China Rich Girlfriend. Now, there are several books in this stack that at the beginning of 2024, I went a little crazy at my used bookstore and bought a bunch of books. Bunch of books I probably should have known I wasn't going to read, but I purchased anyways, this being one of them. So I have never even read or watched Crazy Rich Asians, so why I wanted to do this, I don't know. I even yesterday read the back of the book thinking maybe I can read it this month of December. There's nothing that makes me want to read this. I even flipped through some of the pages just to see kind of how the writing was. This could be a great book, but it's just not for me. It's not what my mood is now for reading, and I just have no desire to pick this up and try to read it. So this I've never read. I have no intention of reading, and we're gonna send this to somebody else who might actually enjoy it. This book, Always the Last to Know, falls in the exact same situation as China Rich Girlfriends. Picked it up at the used bookstore, don't know why. I read the back of this book and it's more of I think this is like a family literary fiction book. Definitely not a book that I would normally gravitate toward. Why I think I picked it up, I have no idea. The only thing I could think of is that I like the cover. Like the colors on the cover are cute. I like the peach and I like the mint green. That would be the only reason I can think that I picked up this book. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on. I'm not going to read it. I don't want to read it. And it doesn't need to stay on my bookshelf just taking up space. Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Get a Life, Chloe Brown. There is a third sister that I did not have the book. And while I read both of these books by Talia Hibbert, they were both good. I enjoyed both of them, but I will never want to pick up and reread it. And I don't have the third book, and I have no desire to read the third book. And because of that, I don't need 2 books out of 3 just sitting on my bookshelf with no intention of reading the third. And because of that, we're just going to pass them on. This is another one that I bought at the used bookstore, have had on my bookshelf for probably a year. I have no idea why I got it. I don't know. This is in a series. This is book 1, and I think the reason why I bought this is on the front. It says it's a smashing story, magic and romance combine in a page-turning adventure. That's like the little blurb at the top. So maybe that was what it was, that I had like a fantasy romance, but I'm never going to want to pick this book up. I've had it for over a year. I don't even really want to even try to pick up the series. So I would have book 1 on my bookshelf with no intention of reading any of the other series. And I think this is actually a fairly long series, if I'm not mistaken. I don't need to keep it. So passing this on, I have no idea if this book is good or not, but it's just not something that I want to try to read, and we're getting rid of it. Firefly Lane. I did read this. I think I ended up giving this about a 4.25. This is a story about two friends growing up like in the 60s when they first meet in like middle school, and you follow them throughout their life into adulthood after they've had kids, and just the different things, the challenges that they've each had to deal with, and how their friendship has kind of evolved and how their friendship has helped them through different stages of their life. Liked the story. I did think that there were a lot of years and things that happened within this story that I could care less about. I don't really think I needed to know everything that happened. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think this goes through like the decades. So you have like the 80s. Yeah, you have the 80s. So part 2, the 80s, Love is a Battlefield. So it goes through the decades. It was interesting just to kind of go back and like live through those decades that they talk about in the book. But I don't know. It was a good book. I did cry. The reason why, so I could see me keeping this book on my bookshelf. However, the reason why I'm getting rid of this book is I absolutely hate mass market paperbacks. I hate the size of this book. If this book was this size, I would potentially keep it. But I hate mass market paperbacks. Can't stand them. I hate them with every fiber of my being. I don't know what it is about these books, but it irks me. So this book, while I did enjoy, it wasn't a 5-star, it wasn't a great story, but it was a good story. And if this was in a regular book size, I could keep it. But because it's in the size, we're letting it go. So whoever reads this next, enjoy a decent story. I hope you can deal with the size. Then we have L. Kennedy, The Mistake, and The Deal. So this is, I believe, book 1 and book 2 of the off-campus series. The reason why I'm getting rid of these books is I did read them, I did enjoy them, but this is a series that is on Kindle Unlimited. And if I decide to continue the series, I'm going to continue it on Kindle. I don't think I like this series enough that I want to have the physical version on my bookshelf. Plus, I think they even have newer like versions of the covers. And if I so decide that I want to have the off-campus series on my bookshelf, I would much rather get the newer covers than this cover. But I think for now, if I continue the series, it's going to be through Kindle Unlimited, and I don't need to have 1, the old version of these covers, and 2, books that I don't really know if I'm going to continue. But if I do, they're going to be on Kindle. So passing these on. Secrets of Southern Girls. This was a used bookstore purchase. Do not ask me why. I don't even know what happened or why this book got me. It says in the back, it's 10 years ago. Julie Portland killed her best friend. What's worse is she got away with it. I don't like thrillers and mysteries. They're not really my favorite genre. So I don't know what was going through my brain. I really think at the beginning of 2024, I went into a spiral when it came to buying books, and the result is getting rid of some of these books a year later. So this one, I guess, mystery thriller going to somebody else. Hope you enjoy it, because I sure have no intention of it. The Luminaries. This is a Illumicrate version. It has a beautiful sprayed edges. You have like a foil on the cover. You have beautiful, this one does not have an alternate dust jacket, but this book I did end up reading the full book. It is a series. I have no idea what kind of series it is, but it was a decent story. I read it. I feel like it took me a little bit longer to read because I did get kind of bored in the story, but I don't ever see me wanting to read it again or read the rest of the series. So we're going to pass this on. Someone's going to get a really good version of the Luminaries book, and maybe they will like this book way more than I did. I just didn't care to read more of this series. It ended, and I was like, okay, next book. That was my thought. So getting rid of this one. Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This was the first Olivia Blake book I've ever read. And I got this book because reading the back, it had something about a realtor, a ghost who would not leave a house that the realtor is trying to sell. And then you had Death's nephew or son, Death's godson. So, realtor, a ghost, Death's godson. Thought it was going to be amazing. I really like the premise of that plot. However, going into this, it took a whole nother turn on a story. And I had to write down how many characters were in this book and the names that they had because it got so confusing. And I don't know what it was. I enjoyed the story and I enjoyed the writing, but it wasn't what the cover of this book said the story was going to be about. And it just got to be too many characters to keep track of. And I think at one point I had listed like 15 character names. That's too many. So it was a good book. Hopefully someone else will enjoy it. I'm never going to want to reach this book ever, ever, ever again. So we're going to get rid of it. Red Scholar's Wake. This is another Illumicrate book that I got. Beautiful sprayed edges. It has beginning pages. It has a nice cover on the front. And I have had this book for probably over a year now. And I have not once thought about it. Not once have I wanted to read it. And every time I'm looking for a book on my bookcase and I'm going like this to all the books on my shelf, I automatically skip this one. It never crosses my mind to read it. It's a space romance. It's a sapphic romance in space. I don't care. It's not something I'm going to want to read. So I would much rather pass it on to someone who might actually enjoy it and want to read it. The Atlas Six. This is the second Olivia Blake book that I read. This is the book that intimidated me the minute I got it on my bookshelf. I was scared to read it. I have no idea why. It sounded intriguing. It's about a group of like magicians that go to a college, and that's all I knew about it. And I hated this book. I felt like through 80% of the book, nothing happened. There was like one scene that was like action packed toward the beginning, and then it just died down. And then at the last 20%, other stuff happened. But I did not, this was one I forced myself to read. I did like, you do have like pictures at the beginning of some of the new parts of each chapter or section, but I didn't care. This drove me crazy trying to read. It took me so long to read, and I was so bored through 80% of it that I was so ready to put this book down. So we will never read this again. I have no desire to read anything else in this series, so this would be moving on and hope and never see it again. In my dreams, I hold a knife. This was a little mystery thriller that I got off of my secondhand bookstore. I did read this. I think I probably rated this about 4 stars. It was a story about a group of graduates who go back to their graduating college class for I think it's like an alumni night or something. But 10 years prior, while they were in college, someone died mysteriously. Everyone thought they knew who did the murder, and while they're there, new information comes out and the mystery kind of unfolds as to what actually happened 10 years ago to that person. I did not get the ending. I don't really care for, like I said earlier, I don't care for mystery and thrillers. So a lot of times with trying to figure out who did it, I'm really bad at that. So don't make it seem like because I said I couldn't guess the ending that it's really confusing or complicated. You might catch this right away. I don't know. But I did read it. It was an okay book. I'm never going to want to read it again though. So Pretty Little Wife, another book that I purchased at the used bookstore, another mystery thriller. I did recently read this, probably within the last couple of months. And I did end up, I think I probably rated this about 3.75 to 4 stars. Did not get the ending. I did like the book. this one had more than one point of view. You had the wife, then you had the detective, and then I want to say you have another character's. I think there's another. No, I don't think. I think it's just those two characters. I think it's just the wife and the detective. And so the premise of this one is the wife kills her husband, who's horrible. Happens in like chapter 1. It's what the book's about. Basically says there's more than one way to end a marriage, and shouldn't a dead husband stay dead? So you know the husband dies. So she kills the husband, leaves him in a spot for him to be found afterwards. And the next day, he's missing. He is not in the spot that she left him at. And so she is stressed that he somehow survived. He's going to come after her and all of that chaos. So she's freaking out about that. And then you have the detective who's butting her nose into the situation, trying to figure out what's happening. She thinks it's the wife, but she's not sure. And it's a decent mystery. I did not get the ending. And yeah, just a mystery thriller I'm never going to want to read again. And then the last book is yet another mystery thriller that I'm never going to want to read again. This one is my first Lucy Foley book. This is the guest list. This is a story about a group of people who go to a wedding. And again, at the very beginning of the chapter, you go through the person dies, and then the subsequent chapters take you like 24 hours prior, and every chapter is leading up to the wedding and finding out who died, because you don't know who died, and then who did it. So this was a very small, very quick mystery. I did enjoy it. It wasn't anything that took me a really long time to read. Again, I didn't get the ending, but it's just not anything I'm ever want to pick up. And I'm definitely not going to be keeping this one on my bookshelf. And with that, that is all of the books that I am doing an unhaul with for the end of 2024. Like I said at the beginning, I do not think getting rid of these books are going to put me below that 25% unread threshold that I would like to have for my goals for 2024. I think I'm still more than 25% unread, even with these off of my bookshelf. So we will see if I can knock that down through the rest of December. I really don't think so, but we'll attempt it. But I am glad to see these books go. This way, my bookshelf is not overly filled with a lot of books that I have no intention of reading or rereading. And with that, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, please make sure you do so. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see everybody in my next video. Bye.